Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to unpack the completely hilarious and frankly utterly agonizing anticlimax of a massive digital World Cup streaming event. If you've ever invested serious time into watching a major gaming or sports tournament online, you know the buildup is absolutely everything, right? The narrative builds, the stakes get crazy high, and you're expecting fireworks at the very end. But what happens when the grand finale absolutely refuses to deliver? Well, today we're looking at a marathon stream by YouTuber Bex that ended in literally the most underwhelming way possible. I mean, we really have to start with this question. How do you survive 120 minutes of zero shots on target? Just imagine the sheer chaotic energy of a live stream where the host and thousands of viewers are desperately waiting for just a spark, a moment of magic, and instead, they get a giant void of action. That is exactly what Bex experienced, and today we're going to break down exactly how this digital tournament finale actually played out. Let's move to our first part here and see how this builds. Section 1. The most boring final, a massive letdown. Okay, so right before the grand final, viewers were treated to an absolute thriller of a match, a 10-goal bronze final. The contrast between what viewers expected and what they actually got next is where the comedy of this whole situation really kicks in. The stakes for that bronze match were technically lower, sure, but the entertainment value was completely off the charts. And then we transition to the main event, Spain versus Argentina for the World Cup title. And as the source material points out, it was arguably the most boring final of all time. I mean, going from a wild 10-goal shootout straight into a sluggish defensive slog, that felt absolutely terrible for the streamer and the viewers alike. Moving right along to Section 2, Argentina's 2 hours of cardio, zero impact. Zero. That is the absolutely crucial number here. As the streamer put it, this stat is just diabolical. Messi and his teammates pulled what Bex actually referred to as the Mbappe special, spending 120 grueling minutes, including extra time, without registering a single shot on target. Zero. In a World Cup final. Honestly, it's almost statistically impossible to be that ineffective. And that perfectly leads into this exact sentiment from the stream. Argentina genuinely did 2 hours of cardio against Spain. You can practically hear the sheer exhaustion and frustration in his voice here. What makes it even more maddening for the viewers is that Argentina had actually pulled off these epic remontadas, comebacks, earlier in the tournament. They showed immense resilience just to show up to the finale and essentially do nothing but run laps around the digital pitch. The bizarre nature of the player performances was fully on display through this final stretch. On one side, we have Saka, who scored a hat-trick when it mattered least. Meanwhile, Messi, arguably the greatest of all time, sneaks into yet another World Cup final just to hide for 120 minutes, just completely ghosting when it mattered most. The streamer hilariously told his audience to do with that information what you want, which perfectly captures the absolute absurdity of the virtual player's form on the day. Which brings us to Section 3, Unlikely Heroes and Highlights, the Bizarre Standouts. So what do you actually do when the game gives you absolutely nothing? When the actual gameplay is a complete snooze fest, a dedicated streamer has to look elsewhere to keep the audience entertained. So here's what we are left with. According to the streamer, the absolute most exciting parts of this grand finale were the Shakira halftime show and Enzo Fernandez getting sent off with a red card. Yeah, think about that for a second. When a halftime music performance at a player getting ejected for a foul are your peak sports highlights for a world championship match, you know the on-field action has completely failed you. But wait, someone eventually had to win, right? Enter Fanto. Fanto finally silenced the haters. He took all the online slander personally, and when it finally came down to a critical moment to secure the win for Spain, he made a groundbreaking decision. He decided not to miss an open goal for once in his life. I know, scoring the match winner in a World Cup final is incredibly tough, but Fanto actually got it done, putting the viewers out of their misery and securing Spain's second ever World Cup. All right, let's wrap this up with Section 4, Touching Grass at Last, the streamer's survival. Because honestly, the real story here isn't just about the digital players on the pitch. It's about Bex, the streamer trapped behind the microphone, desperately trying to keep a live audience engaged during a total drought of action. Just listen to this behind-the-scenes survival tactic. Spam goal in the chat. The match was so impossibly dull that Bex actually asked his audience to flood the chat with the word goal. Why? So that any new viewers tuning into the stream for just 5 seconds would get tricked into thinking something exciting actually happened. It's a hilarious manipulation born out of sheer desperation to create some kind of momentum. Now, what's really interesting here is how deep this delusion goes. The source notes that Bex claimed he low-key spoke that goal into existence. He was essentially taking credit for Spain's winning goal. And even funnier, he admitted that just seeing his chat falsely claiming a goal happened made him feel incredibly good. He found genuine comfort in the fake internet hype, all because the reality of the match he was watching was just way too painful. So, the real punchline here is understanding the sheer scale of this effort. 104. That is the massive number of matches Beck successfully streamed throughout this entire tournament. Think about the physical and mental endurance required to sit through 104 full games of virtual soccer, hyping up the crowd, providing lively commentary day after day, only for the ultimate climax of the whole shebang to be a 120-minute scoreless cardio session. Which brings us to the very end of the marathon, and this quote. "I can finally go outside and touch some grass now. Mamma mia, mamma mia." This is the ultimate internet-native sigh of relief. Bex thanks everyone for tuning in, but you can really feel the absolute, unadulterated joy of a streamer who has been trapped inside his room for way too long, finally being released back into the real world. So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. After an exhausting 104 matches, culminating at a grand finale with 0 shots on target for 120 minutes, who really endured more here? The digital players running their endless cardio session, or the streamer who had to sit there and desperately try to make it all entertaining? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it brought some clarity and a whole lot of laughs to the chaotic reality of marathon streaming. Catch you next time.